Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick video about the Panasonic FZ1000 on the left and the Sony RX100 Mark III on the right. These are two very different cameras, even though they have very similar price points. You're looking at $899 for the Panasonic on the left and $799 for the Sony on the right. Now they're incredibly different in form factor. The RX100 Mark III, a pocket-friendly camera with a very fast piece of glass, a 1-inch sensor that is best in class. In fact, it's the same one found here in the FZ1000. It has some great video capabilities beyond its already best-in-class still performance. It has an OLED viewfinder that actually comes out of where the flash used to be, another impressive addition to the Mark III. It has an articulating LCD screen that will allow you to shoot a selfie, something that is a first from Sony, and then, at least in this class of camera, it also has things like a multi-port, which is essentially the charging port but can also be used for other accessories, HDMI out, Wi-Fi and NFC on board, and really just, again, a camera unlike any in the marketplace right now. You will be hard-pressed to find anything that will stack up with this. Of course, that is going to change with some time. By the way, this is a accessory grip, which does not come stock with the camera, for those of you that are wondering why it looks that way. You can purchase that from any authorized Sony retailer or Sony themselves, Amazon as well. I've covered it in the past. The Panasonic, on the other hand, of course, a bridge-style camera, much bigger, bulkier, but it offers a lot more in terms of feature set than the pocket-friendly Mark III. But don't discount the Mark III in any way, and you'll see why in a moment. When it comes to still photography, you can see the rating of the focal reach of this lens, 25 to 400, which is an incredible, I would say, mega zoom-esque lens, a piece of Leica glass sitting on top again of the exact same 1-inch sensor found in the Mark III. So that's already a dreamlike pairing for many of you out there who've been in the mega zoom market and always wanted more quality than the very small sensors usually afforded to those cameras. In addition, you're getting 4K video recording capability out of this camera, and by the way, using some of the magnification, the zoom, because you do have a 1-inch sensor here, it's going to work out quite well, and that really does make this a legitimate mega zoom, easily taking this out to 800 in many instances. Also, 4K video capture is going to give you the ability to grab some really nice stills straight out of video, almost ensuring you'll never miss anything, especially because the autofocus on this is quite fast. A bevy of features, again, as you'd expect from a bridge camera that is literally the size of a digital SLR. You can see zoom and focus control for the actual ring built into the fixed lens on this camera, as well as a switch for your optical image stabilization, which is solid. It isn't as good as the AX100 that I'm filming on right now, but when it comes to the bit rate, you're capturing 100 megabits per second, which compared to the 60 that I'm pointing at right now is very impressive. Does it look that much better than the AX100 or worse? No, I would say that they're about the same. Many argue this gives the exact same performance as the GH4 when it comes to video, since it is using the exact same processor and bit rate. So definitely very nice to have 4K video, a good bit of future-proofing, something that I've been waiting for, especially at under $1,000. In terms of handling, this is predominantly made out of plastic. You have a great OLED viewfinder here, also reminiscent of performance with the OLED viewfinder on the RX100 Mark III. But of course, far more ergonomic, much easier to use than the one that comes out of the almost stealth-like ejection seat on the Mark III. In terms of modes, dials, you've got everything you'd expect from drive to every customization and program that you could possibly want on a bridge camera that really is breaking the mold, much like the RX10 did. And with that incredibly long focal range, it is now unmatched in the marketplace. Wi-Fi and NFC also on board here, and really just there's nothing to dislike about this camera, I have to say. The menu system is clean, price point is solid, everything is nice about it. So really, when comparing it to something like the RX10, the only thing I'd point out is the difference in build quality. The RX10 does have that going for it. It is a little bit more video-centric, even though this does actually have 4K video, something the RX10 update will probably sport. And of course, it does have twice the reach on the lens. Keep in mind that that lens is f2.8 to f4 in terms of rating. The RX10 is f2.8 across its entire range. Of course, that range is half of what this bridge camera gives you for $100 less at its starting retail price at launch. So this is really an incredible value. The Mark III, on the other hand, gives you that pocket-friendly, as I mentioned before, really go anywhere capability and not sacrifice image quality or video capability for that matter. And I mentioned that before because actually the video side, non-4K, because this can't capture it, hopefully the next RX100 will be able to capture 4K video, but when it comes to 1080p, traditional 1080p, this actually has higher video quality than the FZ1000. The FZ1000, when it comes to AVC HD, that's the next step in quality below the MP4 4K that I've been mentioning and bragging about essentially, and it is a brag-worthy right at this point. They are the only player with that capability at that price point. Unfortunately, on the AVC side of things, we're at 28 megabits, and that's really what Sony's been doing now for 5 years solid, almost. This camera, on the other hand, you get 50 megabits in XAVC, so another format, higher bit rate, better video quality when it comes to the non-4K world, and that's something noteworthy about the Mark III. It adds to its value and again reminds you that it is the champ of its class. That viewfinder is unmistakable in terms of usability. I think sometimes people forget they even have it. I know I did initially when I first started shooting with it, but with time you really find that it is quite usable, works really well, and at the end of the day, if you required it, it's a dream come true that it's now integrated into the camera. Everything else about the RX100 line has simply been improved upon generation after generation. The Mark III is no exception, but rather the example of that innovation, in my opinion. You've got a faster lens. They did give up a little bit of range in accommodating that speed, or at least changing the actual build of the camera, but just about everything here has been improved. I really have no complaints about this camera at all. I did have to add the grip for $15, not a big deal. In the scope of things, the point is, with these two cameras, you really can replace, I would argue, your entire gear bag, and that's because combined, they cover just about every need you can have, whether you do want to travel heavy, even though this is still a light combo when paired together, or when you don't want to be carrying anything, you just have the Mark III with you. So, in my opinion, these are the perfect travel cameras, folks. You're looking at two of the best options out there, the simple, most friendly cameras that money can buy, yet yield incredible results both in still and video. You won't really be sacrificing anything unless you require APS-C, full frame, or otherwise. I mean, this is the top of the line when it comes to consumer point-and-shoot cameras, bridge or pocketable, and they really do provide the best of both worlds. And I could see myself, I already have done a little bit of traveling with the two of these, and quite frankly, it does make me question whether or not I need everything else that I've been bringing, and I'm not going to get into how much that actually is. But together, when paired, you really do have, in my opinion, right now, not only two of the best cameras out there, but two of the best really to be paired with one another. They give you everything you could possibly want for every situation. Neither is a low-light champion, but for the point-and-shoot world, both because of those 1-inch sensors that they sport, are very formidable. I also want to point out the Panasonic, I mentioned before, great autofocus. It does have that. Better than the Mark III. This is going to get you 12 frames per second continuous autofocus. In video also, it does do a very good job, better than most Sony cameras. I would argue not necessarily as good as the AX100 I'm filming this on, but still incredibly competent for its price point. Keep in mind the AX100 I'm filming this on comes in at $2,000 retail. So a lot more spent on a camera that many would argue is less flexible. And that's another reason these are two really compelling products to me, because again, the AX100 was my only method right now for 4K that was reasonable. Now we've got something like this, which is a completely different approach and actually has more utility to me as an end user, even though it has some limitations that the AX100 does not, like recording time, battery capacity, which can be worked around, at least the battery capacity. But that should give you an idea of why both of these cameras were on the table today. In my opinion, the best cameras, non-prosumer really, even though they're arguably prosumer, both in their own right, but without going to interchangeable, without going a route that's going to be a far bigger investment, fixed lens cameras, point and shoot, of course, in nature. They both have auto modes. Only nitpick, by the way, I didn't really give a critique of the FZ1000, is that you do actually have to be in the video mode to utilize that 4K video capability as far as I've been able to discern. So if you're in traditional still mode taking shots, if you go ahead and hit the video record button, you're going to be limited to that 28 megabit AVC HD video format that I mentioned before. So something to keep in mind. It's not a deal breaker in my opinion, but for some, they won't even like the build quality because they'll be comparing it to the RX10, which is not an appropriate comparison. Let's wait until the RX10 gets actually updated. But hope this helps some of you out there, or at least those of you that are interested in each of these cameras. Both are winners. You will not be disappointed with either one. In my opinion, again, when paired, they really can replace an entire system as well as accommodate just about every lifestyle and need. Even if you're looking, to get birds in flight, the FZ1000 can do that. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.